Hey babe, welcome to By the Hour, where we chat and reflect and keep your vibe in check. Today's word of the day is limerence. Now, if you guys have been following me on TikTok, you know that I did a series of videos on limerence and my experience with it. Now, if you don't know what limerence is, don't worry, I got you. I've got my phone here because you know me, I like to get things right and correct. So, according to Google, the definition of limerence is an obsessive longing for someone who doesn't return the feelings. It can consume a person's thoughts and feelings and behaviors. You know what? I don't like that what's it called? Definition. It's true, but it sounds very blunt. So, according to Wikipedia, limerence is a state of mind resulting from romantic feelings for another person. It typically involves intrusive or melancholic thoughts or tragic concerns for the object of one's affection, along with a desire for reciprocation of one's feelings and to form a relationship with the object of love. Hopefully that makes sense. But I'm going to speak about limerence from my perspective and my own experience with it. So, in a nutshell, limerence is basically an obsession. It's like an intense infatuation and desire for someone, and it can sometimes be mistaken for love. So, in my TikTok video, I sort of gave a breakdown of my sort of analysis of my experience of limerence, right? Because the thing is about limerence and all these things, everyone approaches things differently. There may be things that we can all relate to, but everyone's journey and experience with relationships and just everything in life is going to be different. Now, I made this video just talking as I usually do. I didn't think that it was going to be a topic that was of interest or that anyone would be able to relate to. I sort of found out about limerence a few years ago, not long ago, actually. I think it might have been, is it during COVID or 2021, which still is kind of like a COVID period. But I remember watching all these like self-help videos and like these psychologists on YouTube. And I came across the Crappy Childhood Fairy on YouTube, and she speaks a lot on limerence. And she speaks a lot on CPTSD, which is complex PTSD, or some people say it's childhood PTSD or something like that. So she would speak on these topics a lot. And I was really, really interested in it because I really wanted to work on myself. During that period of time, I was really going through it, as a lot of people were during COVID. And I just really wanted to reframe myself and rewire my brain. So I found all these videos and I came across limerence and I was like, what's limerence? And then she would speak about it and I was like, oh, okay. I kind of feel like I've experienced this before, but I didn't really analyze any relationships that I had and try to compare it to limerence. Like, I was like, okay, there is a possibility that it was that, but I didn't really acknowledge it too much, if that makes sense. It's only in recent years, like the past 2 years, where I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, I was in limerence, So yeah, in my TikTok video, I sort of broke down my experience with limerence and my unhealthy view of love. Now, I just wanted to be brutally honest and just transparent. I've never had a healthy view of love. Now, in the previous episode, I kind of gave a, backstory and breakdown of how I was raised, how I grew up, like my childhood and my, relationship with my mum. And in that episode, I mentioned how my mum was hot and cold with me. Now, how does this tie into limerence? Well, so your childhood shapes you as an adult. And that's obvious, right? But sometimes it isn't. And so my relationship with my mum was very tumultuous. It was very hot and cold. It was very anxious, avoidant. Now, I'm also into attachment styles as well, and I've spoken about this in many videos of mine, so please check them out on my TikTok or do your research on attachment styles because it's so important to know about your attachment style and to know about them in general, because without that knowledge, I don't think I would have come to the conclusion of me basically being in limerence most of my life, right? So in that episode, I spoke about how my mum was very hot and cold with me, and I had to be very hyper vigilant, very on edge, very aware. I had to study her behavior in order to, understand where she was at. So if she was moody one day, I knew, okay, cool, I need to step back. I need to not piss her off, basically. If she was in a good mood, I was like, okay, cool, let me cherish this moment because it's not going to last. So I've always experienced that push-pull dynamic, that hot and cold, that uncertainty, right? And then growing up, love was always a weird thing for me. I think when it comes to expressing love, I have always struggled with it, and I didn't think that I did. So, my relationship with my mum is the foundation for that, because there wasn't love there. Now, for years, I've always said, oh, I don't think my mum loves me. Maybe she does. I don't know. I'm a bit more open to that possibility now. But for most of my life, I always used to say, yeah, my mum doesn't love me. And that's because she's never said it. My mum has never told me that she loves me. She's never said, I love you, she's never said that. And so I would, sort of beg for my mum's attention, beg for her love. It's almost as if I had to earn it. And I mentioned this in episode 2, where I was talking about my breakup and everything, how I was raised to sort of feel as though I had to earn love. It wasn't given. You had to do things in order to receive it. So that's why I'm a people pleaser, because I do things to please others. Because growing up, my mum was always, sort of like emotionally absent, or just she wasn't there. She wasn't a mum to me in that way, like maternally, like emotionally, she wasn't there. She was there physically and she looked after me. But when it came to the emotions and everything, that was lacking. That wasn't a thing. So, yeah, I sort of felt like I had to fight for her love, fight for her attention and everything. And so I've always had that ingrained in my head that love is hard because you have to earn it. You have to fight for it. So when it comes to my romantic relationships, that's how I've always approached it. And so in my video, I spoke about how I grew up, with the sort of fairy tale mentality. I always wanted a fairy tale romance, or I always wanted that childhood sweetheart romance, and I just kind of thought I was meant to have this like fairy tale, and I was meant to be the princess, like the damsel in distress, and my Prince Charming was supposed to come on his horse and save me. Obviously, that's not happened. But I always had that in my head. I always thought, okay, I have to minimize myself. I have to dim myself, dim my light in order for a man to come and fix things and save me, and for him to want me. And I don't like that I thought that way, but I understand it because, again, I was raised to feel, or believe at least, that I have to earn people's love. And also my mum's own, perception of men wasn't great because my dad wasn't around. He wasn't present. She had a few relationships that weren't great either. So her, feeling towards men wasn't healthy either. And she would always express that. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that, where like, if you were raised by a single mother and your dad wasn't around, or she's had like really difficult relationships with men, they would always voice that, men are this, men are that. I don't need a man. You see, I've been able to raise you on my own. I didn't need him, that sort of thing. So I always had that in my head. And sorry, excuse me. In a way, like, even though I did want that love and I did, try to, what's the word? Even though I tried to earn it, I did also have that mentality as well of like, oh, I don't need a man. I can do this on my own. So I was very conflicted, but for the most part, I wanted that fairy tale romance. I just wanted to be loved. I wanted to be a princess. I wanted someone to come and save me. So, limerence, right? Why is that relevant to me and my life? Well, I have been in limerence most of my life. In the previous episode, I spoke about my experience at secondary school and how I was able to have different experiences and relationships with people. Like, it was the time where I was able to explore romantic connections. And so I fell for this boy that I was basically infatuated with for years. So imagine from, if I'm not mistaken, I think from year 8 up until sixth form, that is a long time. That is, year 8 was like 2010, 2011, if I'm not mistaken, to sixth form, which was 2016. It's a long time. And even slightly after that, actually, but we'll get into it. So I was infatuated with this person for that long. And it came to mind the other day, like for some reason, I don't know why I thought of it. I was like, hold on a minute. Why was I so obsessed with you? Like, what was it about you that was so appealing? Because, like, no offense to him, but I was just like, I don't understand. Like, we didn't even really have like a relationship like that. We started off as friends. So basically, I spoke about how I had a boyfriend when I was like in year 7 or year 8. We broke up. This is such a funny story. So, so him and I were together for, I don't even know, it was like a couple months, not a year, just under a year, I believe. And then I remember Christmas came around and like he messaged me just before we were about to break for the holidays. And he was like, this was like BBM times. And he was like, oh, I'm going out. Like, what would you like for Christmas? And I was like, oh, I don't know, just surprise me or something like that. Cool. Couple hours later, he breaks up with me. I was like, rah, you were just asking me what I want for Christmas and you're breaking up with me. I was so upset. Like, I remember just being like, rah, like, what have I done wrong? I don't really remember how I dealt with it because it was so long ago. I'm sure I cried. It mustn't have been that deep because I was able to like get over it quite quickly and I wasn't like really like ruminating. Again, guys, this is how many years ago now? This is over 10 years ago. Like, but yeah, like I just remember feeling like, rah, like you literally just asked me what do I want for Christmas and you're coming to break up with me. Cool, whatever. And so with him, I was also sort of infatuated, but not too much. But I do think after that initial breakup period, like maybe after the first couple of weeks, that I was really hurt. And I remember like I had some male friends and like I had a male friend who was like best friends with him as well. So I would like vent to him and then I would vent to this guy that I was like, infatuated with. I want to give him a name. Let's call him Star. I don't know why I came up with that, but yeah, let's just say I was infatuated with Star for years because we were friends. He was friends with my ex as well. They weren't close, but they were friends. So we started off like talking on Facebook. This is when Facebook was really a thing. So we'd talk on Facebook Messenger and we started speaking every day. And so I was like, oh yeah, he really hurt my heart. Like he really upset me. Like, why would he do this? And, and so he would reassure me and comfort me and everything. So that's how our friendship started. And funnily enough, we were in the same form group as well. I just never really spoke to him like that. But then we became close, we became cool and we were friends. And then at some point, I think we started calling each other like best friends. But then obviously I started fancying him. And yeah, like that was really weird. It was strange. It was strange because I'd never fancied any of my male friends. Like one thing about me, and this is something that I said in my video, is either I really like you or I really don't. Like I have to really feel this intense feeling for you. And I think that's why I'm saying like I was in limerence, because the way I approached it was not healthy. It was like I felt like when it comes to love and romantic relationships, I have to feel this really intense feeling straight away. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. Like it can't be something. So with him, I thought he was cute anyway, but like, yeah, that intense feeling started very early on. And so, yeah, like I'd never really experienced that before. I'd never really looked at my male friends and been like, oh, I fancy you. Not really, like, nah, never actually. So it was weird. It was very strange. And then around this time, I think obviously the breakup was quite fresh. And then I had it in my mind that, oh, again, I don't know where I got this from, but I was like, I just broke up with someone. I can't then start fancying someone else. Like everyone will like start judging me or they'll look at me funny. So I was like, oh, I can't tell him that I fancy him. So I'm just going to keep quiet. So I never told him. I never told him that I liked him. But it turns out he liked me too, but he never said it either. So we both liked each other and we were both friends and talking every day, but none of us confessed any feelings to each other. Because I just thought people were going to judge me. I was like, oh my gosh, I just got broken up with. How can I jump into something with someone else? It's a good mentality to have though, because obviously now as an adult, like I see how people jump from relationship to relationship and they don't heal. So it's good that I had that mentality, but it wasn't for the right reasons. I was thinking about what other people would think about me rather than, oh, I need to heal from this. It was more just like, oh, everyone's going to think like I'm whatever. Like, I don't even know. Honestly, I don't know the rationale behind it, but that's how I was thinking. So I didn't tell him. But I would think about him often. We used to speak every day, like, especially when we first got BBM as well. We'd speak every single day, like, for forever, like for ages, yeah. And yeah, I just became obsessed. I even hate to say that, but I'm just being honest. But and it was killing me inside that I couldn't tell him how I truly felt. To be honest, I don't know if I surely I did, because afterwards we did have like a little something, and I say something because it was nothing. In hindsight, it was literally nothing. I can laugh about it now, but at the time I was like, oh my gosh, like we're going to get together. He's going to be my boyfriend. We're going to get married. Like, girl, really? So yeah, early on, there was no, admission of feelings, let's just say. And then, yeah, that was like year 8. And so you're finding your feet in year 8. You're trying to figure out who you are. You're making all these different friends. You've transitioned from primary school to secondary school. It's your like second year of secondary school now. And so like you're starting to become more comfortable. And so he was very chilled. Like he had a specific group of friends at first. Then he made friends with these other people. So he started to change. And I started to notice that he was becoming a bit more arrogant and not nice to me, right? But this was like a gradual thing. But yeah, we were still friends. We were still really close. He hung out with my girl group of friends as well. So there was like 3 girls and him. And we all got really close. And then he started dating my best friend, which was hard to see, I won't lie. Because again, I was in my head, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't admit that I like him because, I just got broken up with. I just left the relationship. Like, I can't do that. Everyone's going to judge me. And then he started going out with my best friend and I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Why not me? So I had to see that for, I think they were together for a couple of months and that was really difficult. But him and I were still friends and still close and everything. Anyways, that's a long story anyway. But yeah, like through this time, I started to notice that he was becoming a bit more arrogant, becoming like a bad boy and whatever, if you want to call it that. And then, yeah, he was very hot and cold with me. And the fact that I experienced that at a young age is crazy to me, but I don't digress. So yeah, him and my friend broke up. And then he just started dating all these other girls, like all our other friends. So a lot of my friends that I know today have been in a relationship with him for a couple of months. But obviously when you're in secondary school, it's typical. Boys start, dating girls in the same friendship group and dating everyone and whatever. So that's what was happening. But me and him we were never official, bear that in mind. Him and I never became boyfriend and girlfriend. And that's what pisses me off about my approach to this, because I'm just like, that was never my man. Like, why was I so infatuated? It's mad. But anyways, so he broke up with my best friend. Then he started dating my other friends as well. And those relationships were very short-lived and whatever. But I was witnessing this. I was like, rah, like, why are you not dating me? Like, what's happening? But every time he would break up with these people, he would always come back to me. He would always... I don't even really remember. It's so long ago that I don't even remember the conversations that we used to have. But like, it was always a case of like, we were always talking, like we were always friends. I mean, no boundaries were crossed like that, but we were always friends. But he would always get into these relationships with my friends, break up with them, and then start chatting to me and flirting with me. And it was like he was breadcrumbing me from the jump, like from early doors. I was getting breadcrumbed, and it's just crazy to me the fact that I experienced breadcrumbing before I even knew what it was. Mental. But yeah, so he was always back and forth, always hot and cold with me. I was always the one who would run to. Like I was always the what do you call it? Placeholder, essentially. And I would accept it because I really liked him and I really wanted the attention and I was so obsessed and I just wanted to be together eventually. And I was like, oh, maybe if I accept this, like, at some point we will get back together. Well, not that we were together anyway, but maybe we would get together in the future. But yeah, he was dating all these girls. It wasn't working out. He was acting out. Like his behavior at school was like changing. Like he just wasn't the same good boy that he used to be. And he just became arrogant and cocky and he just wasn't nice to me at some points as well. And then I noticed that whenever he was nice to me is when it was like behind closed doors. So it wasn't in front of his friends. It wasn't in front of everyone else. It was like whenever we would talk or if we went on school trips together, if there was a moment where him and I were alone or whatever, that's when he was like flirtatious and nice to me. But then when everyone else was around or when his friends were around, like he was mean or like he would sort of like ignore me or whatever, like in a way. So that was really hard to deal with. But because I was being drip fed, because I was being breadcrumbed, it was like an addiction. And that's what limerence can feel like. It's like when someone gives you a little bit, you're like, oh, okay, they've given me this. Let me hold on to this. And then, they treat you differently. And then you're like, oh gosh, like what have I done? Like you're scrambling. And then they give you a little bit again. And you're like, oh, thank you. They've given it to me again. So it's like, and then when I relate that to childhood, it was like with my mum giving me little crumbs of like her positive energy. And when she was happy, it was like I had to really bask in that. I really had to cherish those moments because I knew it wasn't going to last. So when you compare the two, it's the same. It's the exact same experience. It's like my mum was so hot and cold with me and so sometime-ish. One minute she was happy and she really wanted to engage with me. The next minute she didn't want anything to do with me. And then with Star, one minute he was flirtatious and he would give me attention. The next minute he would shun me or I didn't exist. So having those two experiences was so difficult. But that experience with Star mirrored my experience with my mum. And I said this in one of the previous episodes where I know that sounds weird, but if you think about it in the context of psychology, it makes sense because your relationships with your parents are the foundations, right? It's basically your manual to life. So if you've not had a healthy connection with your parents, if you've not had a healthy attachment from the jump, that's going to affect you later on in life, especially when it comes to romantic relationships. Because we're not really taught how to love, right? Not really. In a way we are because of our connection and our relationship with our parents. Because, with me, for example, my mum not telling me that she loves me or not being an emotional person definitely is one of the reasons why I go for men who are very standoffish, who are very avoidant, who are very guarded, So it's not like an Oedipus complex thing. It's definitely not that. It's literal psychology. And it's weird, but we're weird as human beings. Anyways, so he started to change towards me. He was very hot and cold. And, there were moments where like I would try to like be open to other people, but I just couldn't. It was just him. I just wanted to be with him. That never came. He was always getting into relationships with other people. And then he got into a relationship with someone who I became friends with like in year 9, I think. And that was hard. Again, I don't want to touch on that too much. It's a very significant part of my limerence story, but yeah, it's difficult for me to go into that one anyway. Obviously I'm past it. I've let go of that. That happened a long time ago, but yeah. So he got with this girl and me and this girl became friends. Me and him stopped talking at some point or like things were like really awkward. And apparently she became friends with me to get me and Star back together. That didn't happen, obviously. That didn't work. And then they started to date and they were together for years. I think they were together for like 2 or 3 years. So I had to see that. I had to witness that. And stupid me, I was still friends with her. So I was hearing everything about their relationship and everything. And, it was being rubbed in my face. It was just a very, very difficult period. So it was just like I was so close, but then I wasn't, It was like, again, I was being drip fed all of these moments with him, and then he would get with someone else and he wouldn't choose me. Now, I would like to say I've never been a pick me. I don't like pick me energy, but I think in this instance, it was a thing where like I just wanted to be desired. It wasn't so much that I wanted to be chosen per se. Like, I guess, yes, to a degree, but it was like I wanted someone to desire me. And it was like when he did, when I was getting those little breadcrumbs, it wouldn't last. And I just wanted it to last because I was like, fairy tales are supposed to be forever. You're supposed to love me forever. Like, this is supposed to, I don't know. I was like, it's supposed to be like a movie. Like, you're supposed to come in and like bring me flowers, bring me roses, and like try to woo me with your advances. And I'm supposed to play hard to get and be like the damsel in distress and like, oh, woe is me. And then, then I give in, and then we have this like intense romantic relationship. And that's not how it works. And that's not how it worked. My story was different. I was always on the back burner. I was always the backup plan. When things weren't going well with, the girls or some of my friends that he was dating, they'd break up. He'd come back to me. He would flirt. He would chat to me. He would tell me all these things. And then he'd go and date someone else a week later. And then once he got into this relationship, this was so painful because I became really close with this girl. Like, we were like sisters. And then all that sneakiness was going on behind my back. And then eventually it was, admitted or whatever, like, And then I tried to be the bigger person, and I was like, okay, cool. You know what? Like, they like each other. They can have each other. Like, I'm not going to sweat it. Like, it is what it is. It's cool. But yeah, I dealt with that for years. And like, I was just so still like infatuated with him. And I was just like, is there something wrong with me? Like, why is he not choosing me? Like, I thought we were going to be together. Why is it that he keeps getting with all these other people? But then when it comes to me, like, he doesn't commit or whatever. Imagine like experiencing that at like 14, 15, 16. Like, what? I should have faced my books. But I mean, I was, like I said, I was very academic and very like focused on my books, but I was so infatuated and obsessed with him, Any other boy that tried to move to me, I did not give a heck. I did not give a heck. I didn't care. If anything, it gave me the ick. I feel like I experienced the ick before the ick became a thing. Like, I was always icked out by the boys. Like I said, I was very black or white. I either liked you a lot and intensely, or I couldn't give a damn about you. Like, I have to really feel for somebody in order to give them a chance. And a lot of the boys that were moving to me, I didn't want them. I didn't care for them. And I'm still kind of like that till this day, which I'm still trying to work on, because sometimes you can block your blessings by doing that. But yeah, I had this intense feeling for him. And then all the other boys that were like trying to move to me, I just was not interested. I was not interested. There was one that I was like on the fence about, but it just didn't feel the same. I didn't have the same feeling towards him that I had for Star, So yeah, had to endure that for a couple of years, see them together and have her tell me the ins and outs of their relationship, even physical aspects of it, which was really difficult, Side note, I, at this point, didn't explore sexually. I was a late bloomer. Again, this is something that I really do want to touch on because it's a very important topic. I'm someone who do what you want, right? Do what you want. And I don't believe in the whole virginity thing. I hate that term so much. What do you mean virgin? Pure? What does that mean? So I don't use the term virginity. I say having sex for the first time. So I didn't have sex for the first time until I was 20, I believe. So I was a late bloomer. So when I was in secondary school, everyone was doing the do. They were, doing all sorts. I didn't do that. I didn't explore sexually until I think 17, like my first sort of sexual experience, but I didn't have sex for the first time until I was 20. So I was a very late bloomer. So with Star and my friend, they were like exploring and whatever. And I was hearing about this and I was like, oh my God, like I didn't know how to feel. Like a part of me was like sad that I didn't get to have that with him because obviously I was infatuated. I was in Limerence. I really wanted that fairy tale. I wanted it to be the perfect first time and it wasn't. He did it with someone else and that was really painful. But yeah, so I had to endure that. I say endure. That is so funny. But that's what it felt like. It felt like I had to endure it. I just had to witness that. So imagine being like infatuated with someone and obsessed with them and like thinking about them, but then they're with someone else. Like it was so painful. And yeah, it almost felt as though I was waiting for him. I was waiting for him to choose me, which, oh God, that makes me feel sick. And so anyone else that was trying to move to me or get my attention, I was just like, nah, I don't want nothing to do with you. I'm waiting on this one. We're going to be together. That was the mindset that I had, but I was delusional as hell. That wasn't going to happen. If he wasn't serious about me before, like when he was single and when we were like, I don't know, talking to each other, if he didn't like secure me, then why would he do that after? Like, but I didn't have that perception back then. So yeah, that was quite a tumultuous time. And that, I don't want to speak on their relationship, obviously, but yeah, that was really hard to witness. Very, very hard to witness. So yeah, my experience with Limerence started from that. Started from my first boyfriend, but was really amplified with Star because I just thought that if it had to be him or I'm die. Marry me or I'm die. Literally. It was like, if I didn't get with him, I would never find anyone like that ever again. And the maddest thing is, guys, we were never in a relationship. Never. Zilch. We were never boyfriend and girlfriend. There was one time, however, where like, this is when like we were just talking to each other. Like it wasn't, I hate to call it a situationship, but I guess that's what it was back then. Obviously, situationships are kind of like a new thing or a new term. But if you want to call it, no, I wouldn't even say it was that. I'm not going to lie. It was literally just like a secondary school crush that I could not shift, basically. And he was just entertaining it. That's what I would call it. I wouldn't even say it was a situationship, if I'm being honest with you. That's how ridiculous it is. But there was a time where like we were sort of like trying to figure out where it was going. And I don't even want to say it like that because it wasn't even that deep, but we were talking or whatever. This was very early on. And I think I remember him saying, oh, like maybe we should like get into a relationship and see how it goes. And I said, no, I was like, nah, no. Let's just see how it goes like this. Like, let's, get to know each other and whatever. And I remember like, years down the line, I was like, oh, maybe I should have said yes. Like maybe we would have been together. Like, why did I say no? Girl, if I could go back in time and just slap myself into some sense. Anyways, so my thoughts were plagued by him and me wanting to be with him and the future and like hoping that we would be together and that he would see the good in me and everything. And I didn't explore romantically when I was young or when I was in secondary school. I was very much stiff. That's what all the boys used to say. They would always call me stiff. They said I was so difficult to get through to because I'm not going to lie, I was that girl. I was a catch, okay? Because I was very much comfortable in myself in a way. I wasn't, but I was. Like, I was very unique and very different. And I think that intrigued a lot of the boys. But I was not easy to deal with. I was not easy to get through to. And I think, guys like a chase. So the boys really liked that. So the boys would always move to me and I would side eye them with, I just was not interested. I was not interested. I just wanted one person and one person only. Or I needed to have that strong, intense feeling or else it wasn't going to go anywhere. And that was the case. So, there were people that tried and everything and I just wasn't interested. I did not care for them. And sometimes like I would try to be open to it, but I just knew straight off the bat, I was like, I don't feel anything for you. It's just going to be a waste of time. Like it has, it's either like I need to feel the same way about you as I do for Star or more. So I was already infatuated with Star, and I'm here saying is the level needs to be that or more. Nah, no. That's not healthy. And thank God that was never a thing. But yeah, so for years, man, I was focused on him. I was waiting. It was like I was just so naive, man. And with him as well, like he wasn't a saint. He would always be like, oh, I'm trying to focus on football and education. And, whenever he was single, that's what he would say to me. Oh, I'm just trying to focus on myself and school. He wasn't focusing on school. He wasn't paying attention. It was an excuse. So I heard those words at a very young age. Because, like on TikTok, on social media, like you get all these like, relationship gurus, sorry, and all these people talking about, when a man says, oh, I just want to focus on my career, I just want to do, he don't like you. He don't like you. Well, he doesn't like you enough, but it's not about you. It's more about him. Like clearly he's not, emotionally there, or he's not open enough to say to you that he doesn't want a relationship. And I experienced that at a young age. Him telling me he's just focusing on school and everything. So yeah, I was just twiddling my thumbs, waiting around, hoping that he would choose me, hoping that he would see the good in me and see that I was different from most girls. Not that I thought I was better than anyone, because I really didn't. But I knew that I was like very like laid back and chilled and passive and, loyal and everything. And that I would live and breathe my partner. I just wanted him to know that, but it didn't matter. But like I said, that relationship was never that deep. It was never anything really. And the thing is, like, I was never, what's the word? Never intense with it. Like, even though limerence is an intense feeling and it can make someone be a bit too like codependent and everything, I wouldn't say I really exhibited that. I think it was more just like me being too nice to him. I was just too nice and too available. It wasn't like I was like, oh, when are we gonna get together? When are we da? Or it's not. Nah, it was never anything like that. Thank God. But I think in hindsight, like it's just like it makes me cringe. I'm just like, girl, at such a young age as well. Like I think for me, like whenever I think about that time period, I'm just like, I really wish I spent that time exploring. And I don't mean sexually. I just mean exploring relationships with boys, like so that I can have more experience. Because that's what everyone else was doing. That's what all my friends were doing. They had different boyfriends and different relationships. I'm not saying that, oh, I really wanted a boyfriend, but I just mean like I really wish that I put myself in a position to understand that sort of dynamic, because I was, again, a late bloomer when it came to like the whole sexual aspect of it, but then also romantically as well. I haven't been in many relationships, or any like romantic connections I've had with people have always been like short-lived, and a few casual ones, like physical casual relationships, not many, but as a whole it's always been like, oh, I'm talking to someone, like I'm getting to know someone, but it's never really gone beyond that. I've not really been on dates like that. I've always just tried to get to know people. Or like I said, like people, like guys have tried to get to know me and I've just like shunned them out. Like I'm just like, nope, I don't feel that feeling, not interested. I'm not even going to let it get anywhere. So I sort of look at it like I kind of wish I gave myself time to like explore with other people, and I didn't, because I was so focused on this one person and it was never even that deep anyway. So, I wouldn't change anything because it needed to happen, but like I feel like I wasted my years waiting for a boy who was figuring himself out, same way I was figuring myself out, waiting for him to commit to me. Why is somebody going to commit to me at the age of 15, 16, 17? Like, and that's what limerence can do to you, because you can get in your head and feel like, oh my gosh, like I really love this person, or what I feel is love, and we're going to be together and we're going to have that childhood sweetheart story and everything. And it's like that happens for some people, sure, but like it's very rare. But I was so fixated on it. I just wanted that to be my story. And because of that, I was minimizing myself. I was dimming my light. I was waiting. I was being a fool. And so, yeah, I wasn't chosen. I wasn't chosen ever. That connection ended many years ago now. Like, I think our last interaction like that was like the first year of uni. I've seen him ever since. We're in the same friendship group. So I don't see him often, like maybe once a year, if even, like at, different events. If someone's having a birthday, he might be there. Like, hi, bye, whatever. Like, it's cool. I feel nothing, literally. And I'm so glad, because once you're out of Limerence, it feels like you're like walking on sunshine. It's like, I finally freed myself from that. And that's how it felt when I finally got there. But what led me to like wanting to like finally let him go was that, again, so he got into a relationship with my friend and they were together for years. Me and her, we stopped talking when I haven't spoken to her in many years now, actually. It's all love, have nothing against her, of course. Obviously back then it was really painful, but like I don't harbor any like negative energy towards her, because we were kids at the end of the day. Like let's be real, like we were young, why would I still harbor that? But it was hard, and it definitely impacted me as an adult as well. But when it comes to me and Star, after their breakup, we sort of had like a little, thing still, like after that. Not really. Again, it was never that deep. It was never that deep. But yeah, like we stopped talking. Well, I stopped talking to him during my first year of uni, I believe. And yeah, I think for me, it was just that I finally got tired of being led on. I finally got tired of being the placeholder. I really did want to experience love, and I really did want a relationship or what have you, but like I was starting to realize that it just wasn't healthy and it wasn't for me. And so I decided to finally let him go. And funnily enough, I decided to do it after a tarot reading. So I know a lot of people don't believe in like psychics and tarots and everything, but I'm interested in it. And I used to go to a tarot reader for years, many, many years ago. Like I started going to her when I was 13, because she wouldn't see anyone below the age of 13. So like from 13 up until the last time I saw her was in 2020. So I would have been 22. So I saw her for, a couple of years during that time period. And like she would always tell me things, and a lot of the stuff has come into fruition. I'm going to do an episode on spirituality, my experience with like psychics and tarot cards and everything. Like it's wild. But she wasn't one of them, oh, you're going to go to the shop tomorrow psychics. She wasn't one of those like cold reading psychics. She was scarily accurate. And she would pick up on things. And I think the last time I saw her, she would tell me about, my romantic connections and stuff. And then COVID came around, and obviously I couldn't go see her because I would see her in person. And she was an old Spanish lady as well. She was really lovely. So then I found another tarot reader who was doing tarot readings online. And then she told me, she was like, there's a person that you're sort of like infatuated with. And she was like, this is not your person. She was like, this is not your person. You need to let them go. And obviously at this point, when it came to Star, I was already like feeling like, it's been years. You keep getting into relationships with other people. When it comes to me, like you're not interested, which made me feel really sad, actually. It made me feel like, is there something wrong with me? But I now know it's because I was not, how do I put this? I don't want to say this without like offending anyone, but it wasn't that. I think because we were just so different, I was on a different level, right? I was so different to maybe what he liked, and that's okay. Like I was just vibrating at a different frequency. That's how I would put it. But I was already feeling like, I'm so over this. Like I really just want to let him go. I just couldn't. I just didn't know how. So I've gone to this tarot reader, and she's like, yeah, no, this is not your person. Like, he's just not a serious person. Like, you need to sort this shit out. Then she was like to me, do you know what you could do? You can write a letter. You can write a letter to yourself, to the universe, to him, whatever. Write it, rip it up, and just burn it. And she was like, the energy of that, you'll be able to let it go into the universe. And I was like, oh, well, I really do want to let him go, so I'll give it a go. And I remember it was summer of 2019. So I wrote this letter and I was like, dear universe, I want to let go of so and so. I want to be better. I really want to heal. I want to work on myself, and this, and the third. I wrote it, ripped it up. I set it on fire, and then I blew the ashes into the atmosphere, and I'll never forget it. It was sunny that day, and I just blew it. And it's like, I felt it leave me. And so I promised myself from that day onwards that I was going to let him go, and I was going to work on myself and focus on me. And I did. And of course, there's more to this, because that period of time was very difficult as well. I was really struggling with my mental health. But when it came to my attachment to him, I finally let him go. Like, imagine being obsessed with someone for so many years to the point where you're exhausted. And then you finally get to the stage where, like, you don't care anymore. And it wasn't without its like struggles. It was difficult. I had moments where I really did want to let him go. And I remember, like, I was doing counseling at school. Like, we had a counselor, and I was telling her about these experiences and about Star and everything. And like, she would give me advice, and she would like try to help me through it. And I was doing therapy at some point as well. And therapy really helped for me to understand my feelings and try to let go. But at this point, I didn't really make the connection between my experience with him and my childhood or my relationship with my mum. I didn't realize that they were going hand in hand. It's only later on in life that I started to do research on relationships and like attachment styles and connections and all of that, where I started to understand, oh, okay, because I grew up having to earn my mum's love, that sort of set the tone for my romantic relationships, you know? But I finally let him go, and I felt so at peace. And like I said, we're in the same friendship group. So, you know, post that, it was weird seeing him a few times. I won't lie. It was like, ugh, okay, I used to like you and now I don't really feel anything for you. Like, this is weird. And now I don't care. I truly don't care. I finally let go of that experience, and oh, it just felt like heaven. It felt like, oh my gosh, a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. I'm no longer obsessed with you. Thank God. Right, guys, I'm not sure where I got up to. I had to quickly sort out the camera, but I think I was talking about how, you know, I finally got to free myself from that situation and let him go. And yeah, like, it was really hard, but I'm so glad I did it. I don't regret it. But did I learn my lesson? No. So I just want to look at my notes quickly. And yeah, I wanted to touch on that experience. And that was definitely like the beginning of, you know, me sort of understanding that my approach to love and relationships was not healthy. And like, I felt that and I knew that like later on. I didn't know it straight away, but like, because I was just like, the fact that I feel this way, the fact that I feel like I'm sort of chasing someone or waiting for them, I was like, this is not healthy. Like, this is not right. This is not the story that I had in my mind. This is not what was meant to be written, if that makes sense. So, you know, I guess in a way I knew it wasn't healthy, but then at the same time, I blamed myself. I was like, oh, I'm not good enough. Maybe there's something wrong with me. That's why he's not choosing me. That's why it's not working out. That's not true. It's everyone has, you know, parameters or standards, I guess, or people that they resonate with more, or who they're attracted to. And it doesn't have anything to do with us. It's not our fault. Do you get what I mean? I can't say why he wasn't committed to me. I just think he was afraid. I think I was just such a different energy, and like the aura that I have now, I've always had it. I've always been one of one, unique, a very open, caring, loving person, someone who's very down to earth as well. And again, I'm not saying the girls that he was with weren't, but there was always something very different about me, and people would always say it. And so I think sometimes that intimidates people and that scares people. And I think it scared him, if I'm being honest. And sometimes some people just aren't for you, and I just wasn't for him, and that's fine. It's okay, you know? Um, but yeah, so I started to realize that that wasn't a healthy connection or relationship, or yeah, it just wasn't something that I should have been in, because it just wasn't making me happy, right? I wasn't getting my ROI, you know, like there was no return of investment, like so finally let him go. But did I learn my lesson? No. Because I still had that perception that I need to have romance. I need to have like that fairy tale relationship or what have you. So I didn't really heal from it. Not in the way that I would now, or in the way that I hoped to have healed. Because I was still going into like connections with guys with with just not the right approach. Not the right approach. Being passive, waiting for them to make the move, which you should, I think, as a woman. Like, I definitely do believe like a man should make the first move, but I was approaching it in a different way of just like, oh, well, if he's going to keep me in that gray area or keep me in limbo, it's cool. I'll just wait. He'll pick me eventually. Well, I hate the word pick me, but he will see my worth, is what I'm trying to say. He will see my worth eventually if I just lay low, if I'm on my best behavior. What does that remind you of? My childhood. If I'm on my best behavior, my mom's going to be nicer to me. She's going to treat me better. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. But I had that in my head. I was like, okay, cool. If I'm good, if I do what the guys want, you know, not in that way. I just mean like if I'm just like chilled and laid back. Because, you know, boys would always say, oh, I just want my someone to be my peace. I want someone to be my peace. So I was like, okay, well, I am a laid back person. Like that is definitely who I am. It's not like I was pretending to be something that I'm not. But I was like, let me not even like, how do I put this? I don't want to do or say anything that would like come across as me being a beg, or me, yeah, like begging for him to or want me or whatever. Let me just be chill. Let me be cool as a cucumber. Act as if I don't care. Let me just be like one of the cool girls. I can be his piece. Do you get what I mean? That's how I was approaching it. That wasn't working. Men like a chase. It's like men like problems. It's like men like problems. The guys that I liked when I was younger, it seemed as though they weren't really committed to me, even though I was really nice and really laid back and whatever. They wanted the crazy girls. They were always telling me stories about exes who were crazy, or, oh yeah, I was chatting to this girl and she's mad, she's this. But then they were always going back to that sort of, that girl, you know? And I think as women, it gets in our head. We're like, oh, am I not good enough? Like, I'm a good woman. I am peaceful. I am, you know, well behaved, if you want to call it that. I hate that. But like, yeah, like I'm cool. I'm chilled. Like, I'm loyal. I'm whatever. But then you keep going for the quote unquote crazy ones, the ones who are toxic, the ones who, you know, you have this tumultuous dynamic with. Like, why? Some people are attracted to that. Some people like that. But at the time, I didn't realize that. I thought it was something to do with me. I was like, but I'm a catch. Or so everyone else is telling me, you know, why is it that things aren't sticking, things aren't working? I'm having these connections with people that aren't lasting. They're short-lived. They're toxic in a way, you know. Why do I keep experiencing that? Surely the kind of energy that I have should be inviting, and that should allow me to meet a nicer person. But that wasn't happening. So even though I'd let go of Star finally, my next batch of connections with people were not healthy. I didn't have official relationships with people. A lot of these were just like talking to people or having relationships with people at work, which I will never do such a thing again. Never. Don't shit where you eat. I've learnt my lesson. I'm going to talk on this, sorry, excuse me, in another episode. I want to get one of my friends on because we worked together and we had a similar experience. And I just want us to like go through that period because that was crazy, the shit that we experienced, man. But I would never shit where I eat. Like, there's something about like working with people that makes you see them in a different light because you see them every day. You think, oh yeah, actually you're all right. You're attractive. If it was outside of work, I would have never have looked your way. But you know what? That's what, work does anyway. But yeah, I had different love interests, if you want to call it that, call them that, sorry, that didn't end well. They were all toxic. They were the guys that I was going for were just, number one, it was almost as if like I was trying to fill a void. It's not even almost, I was trying to fill a void. I was trying to heal from Star. So then there was these other people that I put in place, who I didn't really like. They were a distraction for me, and yeah, those didn't last long. They were just very toxic. Not on my end. I wouldn't say I was toxic. It was them. They were very, and again, I'm very good at taking accountability. There were things that I did or the way that I approached it sometimes that wasn't good and wasn't healthy for sure. But for the most part, I was going for people who were like manipulative, who were emotionally stunted, avoidant men and all of that, and there were just so many instances where it was just like, girl, what are you doing? What are you doing? Do you not know your worth? And I didn't. In my mind, I was like, oh, I'll never have a connection like I had with Star. I never had a connection like that, man. That's what pisses me off about the situation. Your mind plays tricks on you. When you're in limerence, your brain makes you think that something is something when it's not. And that's the reality of it. So yeah, like those connections with those guys weren't healthy. They would mistreat me. They would lie to me. They would manipulate me, gaslight me. I really experienced gaslighting with those people for sure. Like they were to the point where like I was questioning my own sanity, But then I had the courage to end those connections with those people and I never looked back. I'm very much the kind of person, like if I'm not too into you, right? Out of sight, out of mind. I don't care about you. I'm not really going to think about you. It's the people that I've been in limerence with who I've struggled to shake. Now, I've experienced limerence with two people. So with Star for years and my most recent ex. And I didn't think I was in limerence until I was out of that relationship and until recently, actually. Until I made those videos, actually, is when I was like, oh, I guess I was in limerence. Because I thought I was in love with him. Maybe I was to a degree. I'm not going to say there was no love there. I do feel like there was to a degree. But as a whole, that wasn't love. I don't think what I felt was love. I was just in limerence. I was, I did explain this in episode 2 where I went through that whole timeline of events and, sort of just listen to episode 2 and you'll understand. I don't want to go through it here. We're talking about limerence here. But yeah, I was in limerence with him as well. I think I thought it was love when I was trying to avoid things that I had swept under the rug. Like I said, I was dealing with a lot mentally and I didn't actually face my issues. Then he came along and I just propped myself up and I was good to go. I was good to be his fluffer. I was good to be his shoulder to cry on. He sucked the energy and the life out of me because I was so focused on building him up and making him see that he's worthy and that he's loved, So I realized that I too was in limerence in that relationship. All I would think about was him, and sometimes your limerence can't be helped. Sometimes if you're with someone who is sometime-ish, hot and cold, who would breadcrumb you, and he was that as well, just like Star, In the beginning, they're all like lovey-dovey and all the honeymoon phase, and then the true colors show. And I guess because I didn't believe that I was worthy and I didn't hold myself to a high standard, that I just accepted it. And because I had painted this future for us in my mind, I was so fixated on it and I was so focused. I was so like, this has to happen. I was wearing the rose-colored glasses again, once again. But this relationship was different because I was significantly older, of course, so I had more experiences. Um, and to be honest, I would say my relationship with my recent ex was probably my most serious relationship. Prior to that, I'd never really had a proper relationship, if I'm being honest. So that's why now I try to give myself grace, because it's like, because that was like my first serious relationship, it's to be expected that it's not going to be perfect. Like, there's going to be hiccups. Obviously, there shouldn't have been the cheating, but like, it's very likely that your first serious relationship is not going to be the one. It happens for some people. There is always an exception to the rule, but it's not always the case. So, I think, yeah, like the past couple of months, I've, been looking into limerence a lot, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe I was in limerence with my ex. And it was very similar to my relationship with Star. It's just that it was more serious and it was more physical, and there was talks of the future together. Like, it was an actual relationship. Whereas with Star, it was just my own obsession and infatuation. I don't know how he felt, to be honest. I've never really had that conversation with him. I don't know, and I never will. I don't care. But I can't say that it was like, I don't want to say it wasn't mutual, because I know at some point he did like me. He did. He would say it. But like, as a whole, it was me just like trying to manifest something, me really wanting something to work out, and it didn't. And me sort of creating a scenario that just wasn't reality. So we weren't in a relationship. It was never a thing. Whereas with this situation with my recent ex, we were in a relationship. But I was so infatuated. I was in limerence. I was like, I don't know. He was my world. It's like he became my everything. So limerence is a scary thing, honestly. It needs to be spoken about more. A lot of people do not know about it because a lot of us think that we're in love, and it's not love. It feels like it, but it's not. And I can't say that I know what love is, because I don't. I've never experienced it, unfortunately. I know I have love within myself, though. I know I'm capable, but I've never experienced love in a romantic sense, like with someone else where it's reciprocated. So I can't tell you what the difference is. I can't tell you what it feels like. I can only read definitions, which sounds so sad. But I know I will experience it at some point. I'm hopeful for that. But, I've been doing the work on myself. My coaching sessions with Bobby have been great. I've mentioned her before. She's an attachment style coach. And if you don't know about attachment styles, please look into it. It's very interesting and very important, and it helps you to understand yourself. And I've mentioned this before, I have a disorganized attachment style where it's a combination of anxious and avoidant. So I would say for the most part, I'm an avoidant person. But when I'm really into someone and when I'm in limerence, I become anxious. So there are people that bring that anxious side out of me, and Star and my recent ex were those people who were able to do that. Whereas with everyone else, I'm avoidant as hell. I could not give a heck. I will not budge. Hence why I used to get called stiff by the boys. So learning about my attachment style has like really, really helped me to work on myself, has really helped me to understand limerence and to understand my approach and, the source of it all. And like I said, it comes from childhood. It comes from my mum being hot and cold. It comes from my dad as well, not being in my life. He was very in and out. One minute he would call me and he was present. The next minute I wouldn't hear from him for 6 months. So experiencing that from my mum, the hot and coldness, and then my dad in a physical way, it was a double whammy. And then also my dad obviously is a man, so my perception of men is that they're just like that. So I've just had all of these things ingrained into my brain ever since I was a child, which I've applied to my adulthood and my romantic connections with people. And I had to break myself free from that. And I decided to really, really do the work after my breakup with my ex, especially late last year when I decided to stop dating because I was just not happy. I was not having a good time. I said, I need to come off these apps. I'm not healing in the way that I would like to. Like, I'm healing, but like I really do need to do some inner work. I need to understand the source of all of this. And you know, my work with Bobby has been great. She's given me so many tools, taught me so much. I'm going to get her on the pod so that she can talk about her work, and we can talk about attachment styles, because it's so interesting. So interesting. And you know, I've been doing therapy. I've been creating my TikToks where I'm sharing my own experiences and stories and everything, and watching other people's videos to resonate, to understand, you know, because it's very common. If any of you guys are listening, do not feel like you're alone. So many of us go through these things. It's just that it's not spoken about enough. And that's why I'm here creating this podcast, talking about it in this episode, because we have to. If it means that I have to make a fool of myself and sort of strip naked and make myself vulnerable to, like, you know, talk about these things, then so be it, because it's a conversation that needs to be had. You know, a lot of us have grown up in an environment where we're not loved properly, whether it's because your parents are emotionally or physically abusive or emotionally or physically absent. You know, sometimes it's your family dynamic as well. I made a video about being raised by a single mum, and I said, like, it's not a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with being raised by a single mum, but sometimes that does affect your perception of love and relationships, especially if your mother doesn't have a good relationship with your father. And especially if she expresses that. And my mum definitely did that. So my perception of men hasn't always been positive. So there's so many layers to all of this, but it's been a long episode already. So I'm going to leave it at that, and we can go into it again in another episode. But that's my Limerence experience and my Limerence story. Honestly, it has been a journey, but I can confidently say I'm out of it. I'm so much healthier and so much more secure within myself, and I'm working towards having a secure attachment style. I still have, you know, anxious and avoidant tendencies, but it takes time. It takes time to get through this. It takes time to learn yourself and to learn about people. So yeah, I'm really excited to take you guys along with me on this journey, to express myself, to share your stories too. You know, I think that's really, really important. And yeah, let's just be open. It's important to be open and honest. And this is me. This is who I am. These are my experiences, and I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed of it. It's made me who I am today. I had to go through those things in order to be the amazing woman that I am today, and I don't regret it. And I just want to tell you guys that if you are experiencing these things, you will come out of it. I didn't think I was going to. I'm not going to lie. I thought that was it for me. Or I thought, oh, I will never find anyone that I'll be as infatuated with. I don't want to be infatuated with someone. I want to love somebody, and I want it to be healthy. And I know I will. And that's good enough for me right now. The fact that I know that is a huge step. So yeah, before I go, let's give you a glow tip of the week. So my glow tip of the week is basically, I mentioned that I found the Crappy Childhood Fairy on YouTube. Please go and watch her. Please, please, please go and watch her content if you struggle with, you know, limerence, or if your attachment style really affects you, or if you struggle with like childhood trauma and all of that, or just relationship trauma. Go and watch the Crappy Childhood Fairy. Let me know what you think, and then yeah, just go and watch her, okay? Anyways, guys, that's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you're watching, please like, comment, and subscribe. Also, share this. Share it with your friends, with your family, with your boyfriend, with your girlfriend, with your partner. Just because you're in a relationship, it doesn't mean that you don't have to learn about these things too. It's very, very important. So please share. Let me know your thoughts. If you have any stories or any dilemmas, please email me at bythehour@gmail.com, because I definitely want to start doing dilemmas and sharing you guys' stories on here. So please, please, please reach out to me. But let me know your thoughts on this episode. It was a long one again. It's definitely the tip of the iceberg. So I will have to, touch on more topics like this in the future. But I hope you enjoyed it. It was definitely something, like just having to recall all of that. It's given me some food for thought, if I'm being honest, but I'm glad. But yeah, guys, that's a wrap. So as I like to say, keep glowing, stay true, and always be unapologetically you. And I'll see you in another episode. Love you guys.